February 10th meeting of the Edenton Town Council to order. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, if you will join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next, I'm going to call upon Councilman Elton Bond to provide our invocation. Councilman Bond.
Yes, sir. We'll bow our heads. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come to thee this afternoon to say thank you. Thank you for blessing us to see another one of your glorious and mercy days. Please be with the council as we try to improve the safety, the beauty, and the cleanness of Edenton. Even though as councilmen sometimes we have different opinions, please let us work together as a unit for the better of Edenton. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Tonight we have a consent agenda, and when we have a consent agenda, we'll need to get the entire agenda approved. If any one council person does not agree with handling the 5 items that are listed under the consent agenda on a consent basis, then we would need you to let us know now, and what we'll do is instead of the motion to approve agenda, we'll have a motion to amend the agenda, and any one item that needs to be pulled out will be put under new business. Does anybody have any objections to the items that are listed on the consent agenda?
Item C.
Item C. And would you make a motion to pull that out and place that under new business, a motion to amend the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second? Generally, as general practice, if any one member wishes to discuss a matter in detail, that we would have a second and vote on that.
I would make a second. I'd like to hear what Mr. Paulson has to say.
All in favor of amending the agenda to pull out item C and place that on new business, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we do have a motion that is approved to amend the agenda as a whole, as stated in Mr. Costin's motion to amend the agenda. As to the items that are remaining on the consent agenda, can I have a motion to approve items A, B, D, and E by consent?
So moved.
Okay, any opposed? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those consent agendas, with the exception of item C, have been approved. The next agenda item is approval of our minutes from the January 13th, 2026 meeting. Has council had the opportunity to review those?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the January 13th, 2026 minutes. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, those minutes are hereby approved. The next agenda item is our public comment. I see that we've got 3 persons signed up for comment. We do place a 3-minute time limit on your comments, and we welcome your comments and thank you for being here. Our first speaker signed up is George Lewis. George?
Good evening, council members. My name is George Lewis, and I'm a resident of Chowan County. I'm here tonight simply as a caring neighbor who loves this community and wants to see us at our best. I've spent more than 40 years in public service, always nonpartisan, and I've been part of MLK Day celebrations since that very first one in 1986. Those experiences have taught me how powerful this day can be when it truly reflects Dr. King's message of unity, dignity, and love. I come before you regarding my observance of a keynote speech during this year's MLK birthday celebration and the resultant op-ed that I submitted to the Albemarle Observer and the Chowan Herald. To be clear, this is not a condemnation of those who contributed to the celebration, but this is an appeal for a unified commitment from this town council, our county commissioners, and our citizens to come together to make sure that how we celebrate Dr. King from this day forward honors what he stood for, building bridges, not walls, and leaving no one feeling excluded in their own community. You serve at the front door of Edenton. What happens in our public spaces, our parades, ceremonies, and gatherings sets the tone for how we treat one another every day. That's why MLK Day matters so much here at home. This day wasn't meant to be a holiday or just a few familiar quotes. It clearly was not intended to be a politically divisive, polarizing, or degrading activity. Dr. King gave us a challenge to look closely at how we speak, how we listen, and how we live together. When words that divide or demean come from an MLK Day stage, something deep inside many of us feels off, because that's not who he was, and it's not who we want to be. Dr. King taught that character, not colors, should define us, and that using shame or humiliation to make a point only weakens the cause of justice. When language like that goes uncorrected, it sends a quiet message that we will tolerate. And I don't think that's the message any of us want to leave our children. But here's the good news. This isn't a crisis, this is an opportunity. We can make Edenton and Chilwan's MLK Day stronger and more unifying than ever. Picture a morning where folks across town are doing acts of service together, an afternoon filled with music, art, and storytelling, and an evening where everyone leaves feeling proud of what we built together. That takes leadership, and I believe this council can help set the tone. My ask, why I'm standing here this evening, partner with the county, our schools, and maybe the NAACP, the Boys and Girls Club, the Fannie A. Parker Club, churches, service organizations, businesses, or others to create a shared plan, one that's clear, inclusive, and grounded in dignity. Dr. King reminded us that the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, but only because people bend it. You have a chance to do that here, not with speeches alone, but with action and heart. Thank you all for your time and for the work you do for this community. Let us stand together as Dr. King urged, knowing that darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. And may Edenton choose always to be in that light. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Our next speaker signed up is J.D. Grant. J.D.?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I just want to express my appreciation, my own, those of my neighbors, and I'm sure the entire town, of the fantastic job that our Public Works Department did during the inclement weather. The fact that they got right on top of it as far as not only treating the roads, but getting an early start on plowing, so that people who had to go to work were able to do so as safely as possible. I also want to thank the Chief of Police and his staff for manning the battlements and giving us an update on a regular basis on what the weather was doing and what the roads were like. I just want to express my appreciation for all of them.
Thank you, J.D. Appreciate it. Next speaker is Bob Kirby. Bob?
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, citizens of Edenton and Chilwan County. I'm coming here this evening to express some genuine concern that I have as an elected official. I think most of you know that I'm the chairman of the Chilwan County Board of Commissioners, and probably more importantly, with respect to this Harbor Towns project, I am the chairman of the Albemarle Commission Board of Delegates. And that Albemarle Commission, it's a council of governments. It oversees activities for all 10 of the counties as well as the associated towns which surround the Albemarle. And that's, of course, the area that this Harbor Towns project is supposed to serve. I'm expressing my extreme disappointment with where the project stands at the moment. I understand and have seen, in fact, the 2 high-speed ferries. I think they still exist somewhere, but I have not seen them recently. They were over at the marina, don't see them anymore. I think that when the presentation comes to you today, y'all need to find out where the ferries are. Along the same lines, just doing a little bit of checking, the Harbor Town headquarters, it's not located in Edenton or Plymouth or Columbia. It's located in Chapel Hill. Are we that bad off that we can't oversee something like this here within the Albemarle? We've got to look to the blue over there in Chapel Hill to do this? I don't think we're that bad. I think we're pretty darn good, as a matter of fact. We've got some real dedicated people here. And as a matter of fact, along the same lines, when it came time to build the boats, we didn't go to Wanchese. The state didn't go to Wanchese. It went to somewhere in the western part of Carolina to have these things built. And then they couldn't get certified. And so they sit, and they sit, and they sit. It's just been fraught with a whole lot of mismanagement, I'll say. To date, the salaries of the board of this nonprofit, the salaries of that board over 2 years amount to $305,000. I serve on several nonprofit boards. Man, I wish, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice, Sambo, to get that kind of money as being on a board? EVM Foundation, I don't think they pay you that much, and you wouldn't accept it either. But these people have collected $305,290. My goodness. And that's like 4 people. The investment income from the money that they received from the state amounts to $114,500. That's actually through last year. I don't know about 2025 yet. But anyway, they've gotten a significant amount of investment income. It needs to be checked out, guys. And I strongly urge you, when this presentation comes to you, ask some questions, because the questions need to be asked. And if these gentlemen would like, I welcome them at any time to come speak to the Chowan County Board of Commissioners. I'd love to sit there and ask them questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kirby. The next person on our list is Gil Burris. Gil?
I'm Gil Burris, resident of Edenton. Please, 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 council, don't let some money go back to the state because of a lack of our initiative in getting projects. I don't know what all you all got. I've seen a couple of tanks down at the marina. I think that was one of the things that they talked about. But I submitted to you all a list of things, including maps to show what I would think that we should do. That list included bulkheading, which is very, very expensive and needed for Sunfish Park. It also included a raised stage for presentations. It also included something that we don't have enough now, and in the future we're never going to have enough, and that is parking down at this part of the town. It includes a parking lot diagram for about 45 parking spaces between Herringbone and Water Street. And that parking lot diagram meets all the requirements of the UDO. Now, we don't have an awful lot of boats coming here. We're 40 miles from the interstate. So the intercoastal. So people going north and south, they have to take a detour of 40 miles to come to Edenton. We've got to make this waterfront so accessible and so welcoming that they will take that 40-mile jog here and 40-mile jog back to get back on the intercoastal waterway. One of the things that I have in that proposal is a water sports center, which would accomplish 3 things that this town needs and the waterfront needs. Number 1, a picnic shelter. We've needed that and we never have had one. It also includes storage for our water sports that are offered by the town, the yacht club, and the recreation department of the county. Right now, those boats are not in a secure place and have to be moved around. The other thing that water sports center would have is a welcoming center for visiting boats. Where when they come here, they could have a place to go, get in air conditioning, and Wi-Fi and the whole 9 yards. And one of the things that you all had presented, or Harbor Towns had, was a new harbor master and restrooms. If you do anything with those, please put a operated washing machine and dryer. If there's one thing that cruising sailors and boaters really need, and that is when they finally land and stop somewhere, they need to do the washing. So that should be a component of it. The other thing
I appreciate it if you got a couple more ideas, if you can share those with us briefly. I appreciate your comments. Yeah,
Okay.
I've given you a little bit over the 3-minute limit.
I
You always
appreciate
have good
that.
ideas, so if you got a few more, please share them. If not, thank you, Mr. Burris. Appreciate you being here tonight. Okay, that concludes our public comment for this evening. Our next agenda item is, or items are special presentations. The first one is the Town of Edenton FY 25 audit presentation by Thompson, Price, Scott, and Adams. I think we've got Greg Adams and one of his colleagues, Mr. Eubanks, that are available by Zoom. Is that correct?
Should be there. There is a Greg up here.
Yes, I'm here. Greg Adams.
Good evening, Mr. Adams. We are here ready to hear your FY 25 audit presentation. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm I hope everyone has a handout, which is our June 30th, 2025 audit presentation. We will start with general comments. Those are them. Now we'll get into, and I'll have time for any questions that y'all might have after we go through this. But on page 3, there's required communications to the town. These are required by auditing standards to be informed to the town each and every year. So if they sound familiar, they're gonna be, because they're the exact same things I had to tell you about last year. But our responsibilities under generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, OMB uniform guidance, and the State Single Audit Implementation Act, we are required to design the audit to provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material errors and in compliance with government regulations. That was accomplished. There were no material errors noted. We are also required to perform all claim procedures and have complete access to both management and required information. That was completed, and our work was not limited in any way by the town. We are required to communicate significant deficiencies in internal control that we discovered during the course of the audit. There was one significant deficiency. We will talk about that at the end. I have a slide for that. The next page, page 4, is adoption or changes in accounting policies. Communicate the initial adoption or a change in an accounting principle which had or is expected to have a significant effect on the financial statements. This year we implemented GASB 101, Governmental Auditing Standards Board 101, which involves sick leave, the accrual and accounting for sick leave. So that was adopted this year. So we had a prior period adjustment to get those balances on the financials. It involved sick leave. Number 3, management's judgment and accounting estimates. Assess the methodologies used and basis of evidence for matters requiring judgments and estimates. Methods used and evidence considered appear to have led to reasonable amounts being included in the financial statements. The 2 main items for estimates or judgments are allowance for doubtful accounts and depreciation, as we're estimating the useful life of the assets that we place in service. And allowance for doubtful accounts, we're estimating how much will be uncollectible of an accounts receivable. So those are the two main items that we use for estimates, and they were both deemed to be reasonable. Number 4, significant audit adjustments or unrecorded differences. Communicate any significant recorded and unrecorded differences. There were none. Number 5, which is on the next page, disagreements with management. Communicate any disagreements on financial or reporting matters, if not satisfactorily resolved, would cause a modification of our report. We had an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of opinion. There was no modifications to our report or disagreements. Consultations with other accountants. Communicate consultations that took place with other accountants. There were none. Prior to retention issues, communicate any major issues that management discussed with the auditor in connection with the retention of the auditor, including the application of accounting principles and auditing standards. For instance, if they had talked to us, management, about that new GASB 101 and they had a different opinion on it, before we signed the contract, I'd have to let you know about that. There were no issues prior to our retention. The next page, page 6, significant difficulties. Were there any serious difficulties the auditor encountered in dealing with management, such as unreasonable delays in providing needed information, unreasonable timetables, or unavailability of client personnel? There were none. Irregularities and illegal acts. Communicate the existence of any material irregularities and/or illegal acts determined during the audit. We did not discover any irregularities and/or illegal acts. Okay, that's the required communications that we have to do each and every year. This is now, we're going to go through some slides, which is some summarization of some of the key figures from the audit. Total revenues and other financing sources was $8,653,738. Total expenditures, $8,951,521, for a net change in the year loss of $297,783. The unassigned fund balance was negative $304,649. The recommended amount by the local government commission is 34% of your expenditures. That 34% is from other entities in the state of the same population of the town of Edenton. So there's an average, and the average is 34% for municipalities of the same size. That number would be 34% of your expenditures would be $3,043,517. So you can see we're way off, and I'll go over that calculation. It's a little bit of a tricky calculation, and it's based on some receivables, but we can go over that. Fund balance available as a percentage of general fund expenditures is minus 3% because our unassigned fund balance is negative $300,000. The overall tax collection rate was 98.35%. The general fund operating summary on the next page, which is page 8, just shows a graphical representation of our revenues, which was 8.6, and our expenditures, which was 8.9 for the current year, rounded off there. But you can see it for the last 4 years, where we've been kind of running a little bit of a negative each year, except for maybe 2024. The next slide on page 9 just gives us a pie chart that shows where our major sources of revenues are in the general fund. 39% is our ad valorem taxes. Our restricted intergovernmental revenue is 9%, which is our grants. Unrestricted, which is basically our local option sales taxes, 24%. Sales and services, 24%. And other, 4%. That's our total revenue for the general fund. On the flip side, our expenditures, 40% is public safety, 9% and 19% environmental protection, transportation 19%, general government, which would be finance, tax, that type of stuff, 14%, and other departments 8%. Here's an analysis of our fund balance, and you can see that the fund balance is our total fund balance, which is restricted, is $3,776,415. But our overall total fund balance is $3,471,766. So that's why we have an unassigned fund balance that is in the negative. Now, how is that calculated? You have to restrict stabilization by state statute, which is restricted for stabilization by state statute, which is a LGC mandated calculation that we do. Basically, it's your receivables and your due froms. So if other funds, electric fund, other funds are running a negative cash, then the cash has to come from somewhere. It's coming from the general fund. So you're basically borrowing in between your funds. That's set up as a receivable. The money is owed back to the general fund. That receivable then in turn has to be restricted. You cannot spend or appropriate monies that you do not have. They're receivables. You might not collect them. Now in this case, we're going to collect them because it's from another fund that we have that owes us the money, but it still makes it restricted. So the general fund in and of itself is fine, but if other funds owe the general fund about $3 million. So that's where this negative unassigned fund balance comes into play. So if the other funds paid back the general fund today, this would look completely different. Does anyone want to stop right here and have any questions on that particular? Because I know that's probably something we need to wrap our head around before we move on to the other funds.
Greg, I've got a question. This is Mayor Hyde.
Yes, sir, Mayor.
Basically, the last minute or so of your comments, do I understand your comments to be that a large majority of the unassigned fund balance is money basically that the town owes itself from itself?
Yes, sir.
Is that what I understand?
$3,208,220.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, the next slide is just a bar graph or a line graph that shows that our fund balance available as a percentage of general fund expenditures, which again, we want to be at around 34%, which we were there in 2022, but we've gone steadily downward from 2022 to where we're at now, which is minus 3%. It's skewed in a way just because we have to reserve that money, restrict that money that's owed to us from the other funds. It's really, not that bad, but that's the way it is that for these calculations where we're at June 30th, 2025. All right, the next slide is the non-major funds, the total non-major funds. We have revenues of $893,333, total expenditures of $1,217,761, the net change of $324,428. Our beginning fund balance was $366,770. Our ending fund balance is $42,342. These non-major funds are special revenue funds. So the timing of when the grant monies come in and when the grant monies are spent, that's why there's no calculations, no concern for these non-major funds. The general fund is the one that we're probably going to have to address with the LGC. The next slide on page 14 is the electric fund. Total operating revenues of $13,595,071. Total operating expenses of $14,765,453 for a loss of $1,170,382. We have transfers to other funds and non-operating revenues, so our net change total for the year was $1,541,624 negative. Our prior period restatement in that fund was $49,698. That is the prior period adjustment for the accrual of sick leave. So the fund balance again in this electric fund, not a real concern of the LGC in your audit on page if you want to write it down or get to it at some point on page 19 shows where you have your cash flows, so cash in, cash out from operations. That's a key kind of figure that the LGC looks at. Our operating cash provided was $677,711 positive. Now when we have acquisition of capital assets and some principal payments and other things, that's what led to a lower cash amount for the electric fund. The electric fund owes the general fund $1,030,865, with the airport fund owing the general fund $2,025,236. So it's those two funds where the bulk of the money is owed back to the general fund.
And Greg, that's a little over 3 million, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That wasn't just for
And then you add that 3 million back in, then the general fund percentage, I didn't calculate that, I should have, but that would probably get us to be where we should be. So, I feel like it's just these other two funds that are draining some of the cash. Whether that was from, Virginia probably can answer some of those questions better than I, but whether that was from, projects that are going on, repairs that were unexpected, that kind of thing, that's usually what happens in these situations.
That 3 million was accumulated over a couple of years, is that correct, or just?
That's correct, yes, sir, yeah.
So Greg, Mayor High again, as I understand you, if the electric fund pays back the general fund, and if the airport pays back the general fund, then that 34% figure that we're required to have would look a whole lot better.
Yes, definitely, yes, because of the way we're just accounting for this, which is basically an IOU back to the general fund, we have to restrict those funds. And if we didn't have to restrict them, our restricted amount would go down 3 million, that means the unrestricted amount would go up 3 million. So we would be in much better shape, if not above the 34%. So it's just these due froms that are hurting the general fund at this point.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. On page 15 is the water and sewer fund. We have $2,955,739 in revenue, expenses of $3,404,815. But we had capital contributions, which are grants, of $4,767,452. So the net change for the year in the water and sewer fund was a positive $4,221,253. And that fund also, we had a prior period of restatement of $33,586. Again, that's for the accrual of the sick time that we had to do with a new GASB this year. That was GASB 101. The next page, on page 16, is the airport fund. Operating revenues of $306,413. Expenses of $478,661. For non-operating revenues of $171,863. So we just had a slight loss in the airport fund of a little over $1,000. We had capital contributions of $6,522,557. We did not have any restatements in the airport fund for the year. The next slide on page 17 is an analysis of cash. So we still have restricted cash in the general fund, which is restricted for Powellville. There is no other cash, even though there is, because it's tied up in that due from. $171,572 in the general fund, $465,226 in the special revenue, $309,948 in the electric, $3,700,506 in the water sewer is restricted, $709,826 is unrestricted. In the airport fund, we have a restricted fund balance, or restricted cash balance of $1,967,544. Okay, the next page on
Hey,
page
Greg,
18 is our
before-
significant
Greg,
deficiency.
Mayor High again, before you move on.
Yes, sir.
So our cash position at the end of the fiscal year, 3.8, 3.9, in that neighborhood, maybe?
I can tell you exactly, sir, and then I
Okay.
can get to that page. It's gonna be $3,994,622.
Okay, Thank you, Greg.
Yes, sir. Page 18 of it, your handout is just our one finding. We had a small over budget in a special revenue fund, and then a larger over budget in the electric fund. So one I think was $700. The electric fund one might have been $500K, where we didn't update our budgets. That can happen because you make adjustments, and then you're in budget, and then you make some adjustments, then you're out of budget. So we just got to make sure by June 30th, we're looking at the budget to actual and making any budget amendments that we need to make by June 30th. So that was the only significant deficiency, the only finding that we had during the course of the audit. When we submit the audit, we have to fill out this lengthy Excel spreadsheet that takes somebody quite a while to do, and then that automatically highlights things that the LGC is concerned about. They used to send a letter. I guess they don't do that anymore. They give you financial performance indicators of concern when you submit this Excel spreadsheet that we fill out. And then the board will have 60 days to answer, or the finance officer of the board, signed by the entire board, finance officer and manager, to answer these things that the LGC highlights. That's what's on the next page, page 20. So you just have to look at these financial performance indicators. You can see we've had some each year, so it's probably, we're gonna do some more of the same in terms of responding. It's gonna be with a fund balance percentage. You have some ratios that they calculate. Operating income, so something in the water and sewers fund, something in the electric fund. I mean, I would think that at the minimum, we'd want to do some rate studies in the water and the electric fund just to see where we're at in terms of if we're having, our rates are good. The budget thing, we've kind of already addressed that, and then that's the same thing, and you had a finding, so then you have to address the finding, even though you already have in the audit, because we have your response to the finding, but you have to do something in a letter to the LGC. Are there any questions? That's the only thing that the board is required to do now, is address those FPICs, which are in the back of that presentation, and respond within 60 days from the date of this presentation.
What's the 980 account?
Excuse me, sir?
What's the 980 account?
980. Oh, that's just your number. I'm sorry. So when you're assigned a number in that Excel formula database, and that's just account number 980.
And so, Greg, I'm gonna chime in with just two things,
Yes,
regarding
sir.
that most recent statement. This is Corey, the city manager. So,
Yep.
I know that, Virginia and I spent a lot of time as we got into this current 25-26 budget. And one thing to, speak on as far as the rates goes, the 2024 audit, I know we worked with LP and also, really understanding those rate changes you've talked about, those were implemented as of July 1 of this current fiscal year.
All right, so that we'll have a better idea of where we're at the end of this fiscal year, yes, sir.
And I do think, one thing to note here, Virginia and I have already started kind of going through this. We still have the remaining electric and airport portion of that, $3,208,220,000. That's the due from. We're trying to itemize that, but I did want to share one thing. We have started with some of the other accounts receivable as well as some of the other special projects and reimbursements that we received. And as of December 10th, if we were to look at this from an unaudited standpoint, looking back at June 30th, right now it looks like we've received an additional $878,550 back to the general fund, which would represent around a 16.53% of the fund balance. And that excludes the two due from, due to accounts that we've really got to kind of dig into and figure out what's been reimbursed since. So I did want to share that with you as well.
Excellent.
Total reimbursements, $1,196,866. 878 general fund, 318 water and sewer. And that's still, to be determined for those other two funds. So, thank you for sharing that, and I'm sure Virginia and I will still have some more questions as we peck through, getting that response letter ready within the next 60 days.
Yes, sir, anything we can do to help.
And so, from here, council works with you in Virginia on our responses. We have to do that within 60 days of today's date.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes.
Okay.
How much time elapses between our response letter to the LGC and then they getting back with us, approving what we said?
It's usually fairly quickly, 30 days or so, 30 to 60 days at most. It's kind of a common window.
If individual councilmen have specific questions, specific concerns, specific clarifications that might be, need to be made based on what was said tonight, they can work with you in Virginia on that.
Yeah, and what I would like to do when we present the response letter to the LGC is at that point that we can give y'all an update based on, because we've got the exact values, Greg, you just mentioned. We will go through those line by line and really show you what has came back within that inner circle from one fund to the next, which,
So you share the response
Yeah.
with us required
yeah,
for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's our response. So,
Yes.
yeah, we need to take an active part in this process.
and y'all would approve that response, but as an additional educational piece, because, what you're seeing here when you think about these fund balance totals, I mean, it's alarming until you really look at what these values mean.
And will you give us a picture? I understand that since June 30th, 2025, we've had a significant amount of reimbursements.
Yes.
Will you give us a picture of that and what these percentages would look like
Yes.
now that we've received those reimbursements? And those were reimbursements that were received after June 30th, but we had the expense of before June 30th.
Yes, that's
Is that
correct. Yeah.
All right, so, we'll just work closely with Corey and Virginia on that. And Greg, we appreciate your hard work on this, and also appreciate your ability to explain it to us in certain terms that are somewhat understandable to us non-accounting majors. So thank you very much.
We would like to thank Corey and Virginia for all the help too during the audit, and we appreciate all the assistance that the town gave us.
Okay, thanks for being with us tonight.
Yes, sir, have a great night.
Next, yes, sir.
As was mentioned, that stuff would be very alarming, if we didn't feel, or if you didn't know where we actually stand, that would be extremely alarming. And Corey, you spoke to me about it and made me feel a lot better, after I reviewed that. Can you briefly explain to the public and the people here, where some of those numbers come from? And I mean, this isn't your audit response letter, but just so they don't leave here thinking, we've got no money, we're in a lot of trouble.
Yes. Thank you for that, but yes, really when we look at this audit, when we look at this cumulative total of one positive and one negative value, it's showing 103.18% committed to a project. And one of the things that we've shared from the 2024 audit with this group prior to us meeting with the LGC this last time to discuss the assistance list, et cetera, was that a lot of that ties to the projects that we're doing. We've got an airport that operates, at $300,000 to $500,000 a year annually for what is there. So, when you look at a $2 million encumbrance back, you remember we have a $4.5 million hangar project that has been a part of that investment. And so, I can go into as far as this, I am confident to say that as of the 10th of December, and we still haven't accounted anything for January or this first half of February, that we have received almost 1.2 million back that would help improve this value.
Were those mainly reimbursements
Yes.
for projects?
Some were just accounts receivable, to begin with. Some were as we worked through closing out a FEMA grant as well as a North Carolina Housing Finance grant. One was finally recognizing, contributions for our fire system back from Chowan County that was encumbered on 6/31 and not paid until 7/17. And we've seen those. We had invoices coming in from July 10th right on up until December 10th. That were things that were a part of this reimbursement.
Do we know of any more large reimbursements that are coming soon?
Yes, right now, when we looked at just what had been expensed within this footprint of this audit, there were roughly $717,000 in reimbursement between water and sewer and the airport for projects that we had, budgeted for. Right now, we have about $240,000 left. We have collected $470,000 since July 1st for those. Of that $240,000 that is left to come in, I'm sure Virginia has things that she's gonna reconcile that will be some type of entry somewhere within this. And we will really try to give the general public a full breakdown of what this means when we get ready to present you guys with your response letter to the LGC.
Yeah,
We
I would like
advise the
that.
LGC that because of the 21 to 26 million in grant funding that we had been awarded over time, that it would probably take about a 24-month cycle for this to make its way through. Most of these ARPA projects will end December 31st of this year. We think about the initial ARPA money that had already been expended in multiple phases that we've spent down. And you know, we are the bank until we're reimbursed. So the grants are good once the check clears.
So we,
I don't think a lot of people understand that, is you don't get that grant money when you're awarded it.
We are the bank for that.
Yeah.
Is a grant charged against us, for lack of a better word, upon
Expenses,
approval of that grant?
expenses towards that grant are encumbered prior to the reimbursement.
and that's what a lot of, what
Yes,
appears to be negative actually is grants that we've been awarded.
yes, yes, that's correct.
So, we always want to seek grants, we always want to think big. Say, for example, if we
We
had
gotta cover it.
2 or 3 years where we weren't thinking big, didn't get a lot of big grants, this would eventually even out.
You would see a steadily inclining number of fund balance unrestricted.
Well, one thing that I would like, and you mentioned that, is when we come back and approve our response to this audit, that we also have some layman's explanations for what's going on, and we would like those to be presented to the general public, in addition to whatever our technical response
Yes.
is.
We'll be glad to do that. And just when we talk about the amount that we're talking that we've received as of December 10th, back, to put that in perspective, we're talking about 1.196 million in reimbursements. There's only 152,000 of the 2 million from the airport. So we've still got a good ways to go to figure out what exactly has been paid back to the general fund from those two other funds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, we look forward to working with you on that. Our next agenda item is a special presentation from Harbor Town Projects. We've got Peter Thompson and Chris Morris here, and perhaps some others, so if you guys would come forward, please.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman. I sort of feel like I'm in the mania tonight. I'd like to clear up a couple of things first of all. Harbor Towns is a private nonprofit. Here at the present time supervising 2 grants, one a $5 million grant as a pilot project for passenger service in the Albemarle, the other a $10 million grant for infrastructure improvement for the 5 towns of the Albemarle. Just so that everybody knows, being on the board is not compensation. There's no compensation for board members. 2 of the members of the board have been working outside of being a member of the board. I am one. My job is operations manager. At the moment, I'm overseeing about 17 projects through the 5 towns and the boats. I'm paid under the OSBM guidelines, actually about 60% of what's allowed under OSBM. The other major payment is to Professor Dido, who does all the administration. We have an office here in Elizabeth City. No, sorry, I'm from Elizabeth City. We have an office here in Edenton, thanks to help from the town as well as employees here. At the moment, it is winter, as you probably knew from last week. The ferries are on the ground in the marina in Bellhaven, because it is one of the 2 marinas in the area that can lift up those boats. The lifts around here are not able to lift 16.5 tons. They've been winterized and they're there for the winter.
Were those ferries able to travel to Bellhaven by water?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Just crank them up and away they go.
Are they for sale?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The other boat that we have at the moment is, of course, the Alamo Queen, which is not for sale. I can do about 5 hours on designing, building, and so on, but suffice to say that places like Spencer's Marina and Wantries, which the gentleman mentioned, has an 8-year backup for sales. So if you want to boat out of Spencer's, be prepared to wait a while.
Catch question?
Sure.
2 high-speed ferries now, they're in Bellhaven.
Yes, sir.
Are they under repair?
No, sir, they've been repaired.
Okay,
We drove them to Bellhaven,
they're for sale.
and they're for sale.
Do you plan to replace these 2 high-speed ferries?
No, sir,
No,
no.
okay.
I think there's people have a different idea of what we're supposed to do with this money. It is a pilot project. We found out that with the unreliability of the ferries and the cost with the lack of infrastructure in many of the towns has put a great cost on running them, as well as the fact that they are expensive to run. They're about 40 gallons an hour. And we can't afford to run them. We can't afford to run the Albemarle Queen, and we do so.
So it'll just be the Albemarle Queen?
For the moment, yeah. When we get some money on the sale of the ferries, then we'll look at other possibilities.
Will you look at boats that can use our type of waterway?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Apparently, these 2 ferries could not, is that correct?
No, these 2 ferries were designed wonderfully. They were manufactured badly. It's as simple as that. And then we discovered in this pilot project how expensive it was to do sophisticated boats in a place without any help. By help, I mean, there is in Edenton, we've had wonderful help from, and spent quite a lot of money with the local people, but there is no master mechanic here that can handle that kind of boat. There is no lift here. There's no place to put the boat. Until recently, there was no fuel here. The same, and it's much better than Elizabeth City, and much better than most of the other towns. So I don't want to put Edenton down at all. I'm just saying.
Wouldn't that have been something you would have figured out growing up? I mean, if I was putting together something to figure things out, that'd be like the first thing I would, what infrastructure is there? I don't know, that doesn't, it just sounds kind of weird to me, I don't know.
It probably is, and no doubt, I'll take the blame for any mistakes that were made. But what we assumed was, if you get new boats and you spend a month on running them, that they would be reliable. That was untrue. They weren't. And when we got,
I've got 2 questions
yes,
here.
sir.
In terms of the less than adequate manufacturing of these boats. Has litigation against the manufacturer been considered? Is that a possibility?
We considered it, sir, the manufacturer's broke.
I understand that. And then
They actually
also,
put 400,000 of their own money into it.
also, I guess to be blunt about it,
Yeah.
is the funding for our infrastructure in any danger due to the failure of these two high-speed ferries?
It is a separate, totally separate deal. We are overseen by OSDN. We have quarterly reviews. We report to them, including our infrastructure, which we're very proud of. The gentleman mentioned 150,000 a year. When you're handling $15 million in 17 projects, we think that's extraordinarily cheap. We have 4 people and we're spending $150,000 a year. I don't know about you guys, but we do that. And the reason I took the job was because we couldn't find somebody to do it without paying a lot of money. Anything else, gentlemen, before I start this? The other thing I want to say is in the paper, there's some suspicion that Ed Goodwin got some money out of it. It's absolutely untrue. He's absolutely never taken a nickel from anything. In fact, he's helped in every way he possibly can, including chipping paint off the boat. So he's the hero of the bunch. And I wish that everybody would understand that he's done everything possible for this area and for this town.
Is he still backing it?
Yes, sir. I mean, he can't do much, you know. I mean, it's up to us. And in terms of the ferries, they didn't work. Shall I continue with the actual grant procedures?
Yes.
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 We have for Edenton, there was 6 possible, we've talked a lot about different possibilities with y'all. We have an emergency fuel system which is now finished. The breakwater repair has now, we've got the final numbers in from Wofford, ready to sign the contract on that, and that will go ahead immediately. The other 4 items are, first of all, rebuilding the waterfront washrooms. And Chris will show you the details of this and take you through the actual schematics of it. But we would rebuild the washrooms as they stand. And with that, we would be able to structurally allow for a 2nd-story watch area for the people to watch the marina. Chris would go do the systems and all that. And so we're asking, the placeholder cost of the project is $500,000. What we would ask you to do is give us the go-ahead to get the structural design done while we wait on the architects to have a look at what the outside should look in order to blend in with what's happening in town.
And who are these architects?
It's the architects from,
Okay.
and we have contacted them, we haven't heard back because we haven't got the approval to go ahead. The next is the Penelope Parker House repairs. We've done considerably work on finding out what that would do. There was a lot of questions about whether the Penelope Barker House should be on this agenda, but for us, we don't regard it as an historic house, we regard it as a tourism mecca where they've been extraordinarily helpful with us and the Admiral Queen. They do a wonderful job with tourists, and they need help. So we've gone to OSBN, who've approved everything that we said. They said as long as you're not making offices, as long as you're doing things for tourism, they're very happy with it. We suggest, Chris will go into the details of it. We're not able to do everything that they want, but we can do a lot with $250,000, and tonight, I'd like you to approve $250,000 for them. We would work out with them exactly how to spend that money. Chris will mention the big projects that this money would buy. The waterfront lighting, again, there's the need of waterfront lighting. We have a placeholder for this of $200,000. What we're asking you to approve tonight is what is the design of the lighting. Or it's how many poles, where they go. This would not be it would probably be somewhere between $5,000 and $7,000 we would spend before we come back to you and say, this is where we propose that it go.
And is this the same, Corey, is this like the poles we've been looking at and
This
with the
is,
design?
yeah, to help with some of the initial design, to help with determining, what the number of fixtures would be needed along Colonial, Park, on the waterfront, on the breakwater, where there's a need for uplighting, basically within this entire footprint, and help with the development of that prototype.
So in the packet?
No, it's not, just, tonight, we're explaining the scope of the projects and what the potential placeholders are, but as far as any official design, no, we haven't gotten to that yet.
This is not the lighting we saw a couple months ago?
That's one we have tried to test to see, to determine.
That's part of this?
Could be.
Oh.
We really had started that, when we were talking about the Main Street grant, for some of our street lighting, which there are street lights in Colonial Park, so if they're north of Water Street, shouldn't they be south of Water Street? So at this point, we need to know where they are, where they're mapped, what type of fixtures we need, et cetera. And that's some of the work that A.R. Chessman will be helping us with, is that electrical plan of where things will be placed and how many there are, and how much conduit and cable and et cetera is needed to do that work.
So what have you been asked to consider tonight?
To earmark the project for waterfront lighting with a placeholder of $200,000. That's item 5. Item 4, for the Barker House repairs, $250,000. Item 3, for the placeholder of rebuilding the waterfront washrooms with the placeholder cost of $500,000. And then we've got one more item to share.
Which is a pavilion gazebo on the town land on the waterfront by the Barker House. We presented one which was shot down, and we were told that the architects who were the town architects at the moment would come up with a version of that. We would not ask you to approve it until such time as there was a rendering that you could approve. So
that placement is where again?
it would be, well, you know where the Penelope Barker House is, between that and the water.
Okay.
And size, and everyone's kind of concerned about the size and the architecture of it, and they should be.
Would that be in the grassy area?
Yes, sir.
Grassy area.
Yeah.
Are we looking at 3, 4, and 5, being approved, the 3, 4?
It would be 3 through 6.
3 through 6, yeah.
So I guess, I mean, what I'm hearing is, this is just a preliminary placeholder for these items, no designs yet, and we will get a chance to look.
Let me tell you exactly what I'd like you to approve tonight, if I may.
Okay, but here's what I want to make sure. We're not approving any designs, because I don't want anything to be built in this community that might be built I mean, if possible, they could copy us, but I don't want to be copying them.
No, sir, you're not approving design at all.
Okay. I mean, I want to make sure we have the very best thing we can have for us. And I guess what you're saying is this is a grant, there are no strings attached, you're gonna give it to us, we do this with this money that you have.
You don't do it, we do it for you.
With our oversight and with
Yes, sir.
our concurrence.
Yes, sir.
Now, tell me a little bit more what that means.
Well, we have the money in the bank.
Yeah.
We have to approve it, and you have to approve it. And also OSBM has to approve it. We have approved these projects, OSBM has approved the project. It's up to you if you want to approve the project.
I get all that, but I mean, I'm saying when it comes down to who's gonna go in there and start hammering on the Barker house, I mean, we don't want some crew that doesn't know what they're doing in there.
No, that's why A.R. Chesson are here, who are our master contractors. And it's the A.R. Chesson people who would work with the Barker House and do that.
And Corey, within these placeholder amounts, for example, if there's a placeholder amount of $450,000, if we can find a way to do that for less than that, that gives us some additional funds to do some other things that might be priorities.
I think we would be able to reallocate things accordingly once things are completed. But initially, contracts would be, that would be a ceiling. You would receive bids, award those bids to do that work. And if there was a surplus, then we circle back and say,
We don't lose that surplus, we get the,
23,000 under budget here. You know, how are we gonna back up to regroup? And what's exciting about these, when we look at the washrooms, when we look at the Penelope Barker House repairs, when we look at the lighting, and the gazebo, so from an architectural standpoint, we've already introduced the Harbortown folks and A.R. Chesson to the architects that we've been working with. When we talk about the waterfront lighting, that's something that we would like to consider as a puzzle piece of what we're doing with Main Street. So these are intended to be very harmonious with some of the, this is a smaller piece of much bigger projects. When we talk about the rebuilding of the washrooms, again, the architectural design, that would be something that we would work with Lotto Sign, with Chris, with A.R. Chesson to get all that incorporated. Then he would determine material cost and volume of that, and what is the contractor going to charge us to do the install. Same thing with breakwater repair. We've made introductions to 2 to 3 marine construction groups. We've been working through trying to get that done here locally, because we've all been aware of some of the repairs that are needed for our breakwater, and that's been a big piece. Some of the piling repairs are there, and so, you know, we've worked closely with plants that we already had from some of the FEMA improvements that we made to say, well, here's kind of a to-do list of these improvements. Do we have the time to add on, you know, $2 million more worth of projects to manage that? So when we talk about management, what that means is making sure that the reporting is done back to O&B, making sure the projects are on timeline, to make sure they meet any of the grant deadlines, et cetera. That's what the project management portion means.
And if something happened and this whole thing went away, I mean, is the money segregated for us in a way that, you know?
The money's not going away.
Well, I know you're saying that, but I'm just saying, you know, I mean, we need assurances that, you know, there's some kind of performance bond or something, so that the money, it gets done once we start. I just think, you know, we've had a lot of that happen here over my 30 years, almost 30 years up here, and I just think we need to have some type of agreement that the money doesn't go to Elizabeth City all of a sudden or something, you know, to finish their project that's got overrides. I just, you know, we need some kind of safety net where we have some control over it.
But Peter, the money stays in y'all's account, it never moves to our account.
No, sir.
Correct. So the $2 million allocated for Edenton
Yeah.
is,
You're in complete control of that, correct?
Yes, sir. Now, it's not ours to play with.
yes.
We have OSBM to do, we report to every 3 months. So they tell us what we can do and can't do, simple as that.
So the headquarters is in Chapel Hill, correct?
Well, the headquarters in terms of the
Corporation.
corporate headquarters is in Chapel Hill, yeah.
Okay,
I'm in Elizabeth City,
okay.
other people are elsewhere.
So once this gets going, and it's going well,
Well, it is going well right now, sir, in other towns, just isn't going well here yet.
okay, well, that's good to know.
I mean, we're almost finished in Elizabeth City because they started early.
So for this area, the headquarters will be where?
Well, the corporate headquarters will always be in Chapel Hill.
That's fine.
Would this be a
Our
would this be a
headquarters
regional?
here is just over there in that office.
Right, that's what I thought.
And that's where Chesson will work out of, and that's where I'll work out of,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that just for Edenton, is that for Columbia, Plymouth?
It is for the towns on this side. I mean, I stay in Elizabeth City, and Chris has an office there for Elizabeth City, and we're almost finished there.
Okay, so geographically you're here.
Yeah, we'll be finished in Elizabeth City in, end of March?
Yeah, I'll say about 2
Yeah,
at most. And every bit of this work has to go before the Preservation Commission. Right. Yeah,
What, the historic district or Eden Preservation?
the Preservation Commission.
Preservation.
Yeah.
but I do want to tell you our urgency. And that is that we have to sign contracts before really the 1st of June, we'd like all contracts signed.
And that's for the 2 million.
Yes, sir. And because by the 30th, the money goes back to the state, and in that time, we have to go through OSBM, we don't know, and that's sometimes not a quick job.
So as long as we approve, what y'all are putting forward,
We feel that this is one of the, I don't say it's the last minute, but it's certainly about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
okay.
And for the benefit of council and anyone making a motion, what is the correct wording of such a motion? If you guys are recommending that.
Unless there's anything different from the project title or the placeholder, the motion should be to approve projects 3, 4, 5, and 6 for the scope with the specific dedicated placeholder amounts for the values.
And we have a local group, a task force, correct, Mayor House?
That's correct. Mayor's work. Yes.
And, I see Mr. Walk, I believe he's on that task force. Is there anybody else here from the group?
I don't see anyone else.
Was there, anything that y'all want to add to what you've heard, as far as proposed upgrades to the waterfront?
There is one item that has not been addressed from that task force. The restrooms, lighting, bulkhead improvements were all mentioned. The one piece that was not been discussed was the day use improvements for our waterfront. Key piece of tourism is day tours. And our waterfront, as we expressed it last time we approached council, there's a number of improvements identified that we'd like to see to enable day use boating in our harbor.
And that would be like floating docks and,
That is, there are two primary asks there. One is a floating dock in the protected side of the breakwall, and then the modification of our finger piers to be lowered to be used for more day use size of boats versus the larger. They're actually too high for even overnight guests, but
And do we have an idea what that'll cost?
do not have a quote.
You know, guesstimate it all.
So how can we build that in, Corey? Because that is a common concern that is addressed to me and a common concern that the mayor's waterfront task force has
If I could
expressed.
ask, sir, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's fine. I finished.
But there may be a permitting problem in terms of lowering the docks. So I would ask Chris, who's an expert on this sort of thing, to weigh in on that before you get too far into it. The other things are, is there, do you want Chris to use the details of this now, or would you prefer not to hear them?
No, we would.
I like you.
Well, I mean, I don't want him showing drawings that we haven't run by the right architects and all that. I mean, I think that we need to.
No,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want a concept that looked like the last one with that thing sticking on top and, you know, it was, you know, like it came from Lowe's.
No, we learned from that, sir.
I mean, you know, I just think, you know.
Corey, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I just think that we're not, we need stuff that's actually, before we even start looking at designs, we need to have the architects design them.
We aren't talking about design now, we're talking about structures.
Well, you gotta design a structure. I mean, I've never seen one that didn't get designed.
Corey, do you have a comment related to what we're discussing?
Well, I think one thing to add here, you know, we're putting these placeholders here, and, once we get to the point of establishing true costs and true estimates and getting bids, I think one of the things that, you know, we could have a conversation around is look at, these project amounts and those, you know, we could track the parallel surpluses, if there's any, for these particular ones. And go ahead and work with harbor towns to try to get some pricing on, you know, what's the, cost around lowering that finger pier to allow for some additional day boating, and what would, cost here from the local vendor be for a gangplank and a floating dock, and then if we could either do that now, or we could do that later. I mean, the council has the ability tonight to a la carte these projects, and the value with that. So if, you know, you wanted to at least reduce something there and say, well, hey, we're only interested in doing this amount of work up to this dollar amount, and you wanted to go ahead and add that there to see if it's even feasible, at least we would have a placeholder that we could bet, and then if it was unfeasible to do it for that dollar amount, then we could resort back to those higher values.
These values are at their highest point, correct?
There, as best we can assume at this point, what
Like the
cost
fuel,
would be.
what did the fuel system really cost?
$150,000.
It did.
That project is done.
That's the only hard
That
number
is
in
it.
there.
Yes.
No, the breakwater repair is now a hard number. WAF has agreed to that price.
Yeah, I would just like to make sure, for example, give one of your examples, if a design comes back and it's got something that just doesn't fit, and that's adding, you know, $35,000 to the project, I would like us to have the ability to say, well, you can take that off because we don't want that, and be able to reassign it, for example, to what Mr. Walker was talking about.
And I feel like our architects could right-size this pavilion, they can right-size this building, all those things would give us some, you know, prices that are usually less than builders or other people say. Actually, that's what needs to come back, but I'm all for taking some of the money and putting it towards day boat. I think that would be very, very needed and good for our downtown.
So how do we incorporate that, Corey, without delaying this process? Because we want to get it right, but we want to make sure we don't lose this
And
money.
if they gotta get this thing going by, so what has to happen by June?
We have to have
Contracts.
You have to have contracts, okay. So you gotta get on the Preservation Commission schedule, and all that's gotta get running for these things.
Yes.
And I mean, and you gotta get them designed, because they're obviously not designed
So
right now.
we've contracted the architects that we have not heard back.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we can,
And we may be able to help you out with
Yeah.
that.
I hope so.
Yeah, speed them up.
you know, at least initially, if you feel like these are all projects that are worthwhile, you could.
How can we include the day boating?
If I may, sir, I really, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the way that this works is harbor towns and OSBM have to approve projects as well.
So to get a number 7,
So if
Listed here, we need-
there's a number 7, we're delighted to take it up, figure out how much it costs, take it to OSBM, suggest that we might do that and come back to you.
Okay.
But I can't just say, yeah, we'll do it.
even if the total number didn't change?
No, sir, it's not about numbers, it's about projects.
So we gotta stick with 3, 4, 5, and 6. Is that correct?
No, I mean, you have the ability to approve what you would like to move forward, and then we would have to regroup and try to figure out what to do with that remaining balance of projects that were not approved. I mean, I think a safe option now would be to approve the projects as presented, put a $75,000 placeholder for project 7 with the contingency if O&D and Harbor Towns could do that and approve that. And then, you know, if lighting is 50,000 too high or 25,000 too high, you could at least have the project price staff that you would like.
So how would that be in the form of a motion? Because I like where Councilman Sellers is headed with this. But I just want to make sure that the motion is clear and the vote is clear so we can.
He's working on it right
Yeah,
now.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I'm fine with that. And I just want to make sure that in the end, I guess when we come back to the final, then we have some bonds in place and things that assure it gets done and we don't, you know, all of a sudden it's going to have use in the night.
So the motion would be that we would approve 3, 4, 5, 6 for them to move forward with the stipulation that the excess money, if there is some, could be allocated to a number 7,
Which would be for day vote.
which would be for day voting.
Yes.
I mean,
Is that
we
your
all,
motion?
we all hope that gets there.
Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you for your patience and us working through it. Do you want to get, we've got a motion and second, so it's on the floor for further discussion. Patrick, if you've got some comments.
Further discussion, yes.
Yeah.
Peter, you mentioned that the breakwater repair, WAF has agreed to that price. Has the contract been signed on the?
No, sir,
No,
but it's about to be signed.
and it's gonna be signed for $450,000?
Well, the $450,000 includes oversight by ARTS, yes.
Oh, it includes oversight,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Because of the complication, as I know you folks know, of dealing with grants and the incredibly difficult accounting and procedures that go in them, we have a master contractor who handles everything and then subcontracts to the appropriate people.
Okay. We've got a motion and second on the floor, so I call for a vote. All in favor of the motion as presented by Councilman Turner, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for your patience and thank you for your
Thank you,
patience
gentlemen.
in allowing us to work through that. The next matters are new business, and the first one is boards and commission appointments. The Northeastern Regional Airport Commission has a vacancy on that commission, and we've had one applicant, is that correct, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir.
And that is Dennis Wright. Did you need to say anything about Mr. Wright, or
No,
he
you all
will
have a
come
copy
forward,
of
we
this.
can.
Yeah, you all have a copy of this application. I believe he's here.
I am right here.
Okay. Mr. Wright's here.
And Mr. Wright, you can come forward while Dwayne is talking with us. Okay.
Yeah, this application from Mr. Wright, the airport commission. Qualifications could include private pilot, licensed engineer, licensed contractor. So seems to be along the.
Seems like he's got qualifications that we're looking for.
And plus, I'm retired.
Yeah, well,
Hey, don't say that too
your
loud,
job
it might really put you
keep
to
that
work.
airport profitable, like Jim Callback finally got it going, so.
Well, I mean, I think so. I mean, that's really what I see as opportunity. I grew up near here. Now I've been a resident about 6 years, lived in Charlotte for about 40 years after graduating college. So when I came back, I loved to fly, build airplanes, all of that. You know, it became not my golf course, but it was a destination for the airport. So met a lot of good people out there. Mr. Kerry Parrish and Mr. Harry Davis asked me to apply. So it's been a good destination, and I think we can make it a better destination for pilots to come just because of what Edenton has to offer.
Maybe we work on that jet tax issue.
There we go.
at some point. Yeah.
That's right.
And Harry Davis recommends you're okay.
Take care.
Mr. Wright has, you may have a familiar face. He was a big part of helping with the Wings Over Edenton we did way back in 2023. To really do an
Was it that long
introduction.
ago?
Yes.
That's right.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Yep.
But he did have to play a major part in that and really introduced himself to the commission, to the pilots, to the staff, from the town that, constantly out there. Things would be a great deal.
And he's always out walking.
Yeah, that's right.
Anybody
Well, not
out
this
there?
weather. We've had to change plans, but today we started back.
I'm starting back tomorrow morning.
There you go.
Okay, any more questions of Mr. Ryder? Any comments on his potential appointment?
Mayor, make the motion that we appoint Mr. Wright to the airport.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Wright to the Northeastern Regional Airport Commission Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome aboard. We look forward to
Thank you.
working with you. Thank you for your interest. Next item of new business is a street handicap parking request. We've got David Myers here. Several citizens had asked us to consider a handicap space on the east side of Broad Street in front of Waterman's. And we took a look at that and noticed that there is no handicap parking on that side of the street here at the foot of Broad Street. And so we asked David to look at it, and I think this is coming before us on the recommendation of admin and David that we do it, and we can do it fairly quickly and fairly efficiently. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, and overall, I mean, this is a great find by the residents and a great chance for us to really, kind of demonstrate, and we'll continue to try to make improvements as much as we can to accommodate for all of our residents.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Next matter for consideration under new business is our contract number 2 for the water treatment plant. And this is for a connection between Beaver Hill and Freemason water treatment plants. And Corey, is there anything you need to add to that?
There were a total of 2 bids. The lowest bidder for the project was Burnett Enterprises. With this, the Public Works Director as well as the Town Manager recommends that council approve the tentative award and approve the resolution of tentative award. So there's, well, you can do them both together as one motion to award the tentative contract to Burnett Enterprises, and then also to approve the resolution that we'll submit to the state.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of approving contract number 2 as presented, and also the resolution of the tentative award, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carry forward, Corey. The next item, subsection D, Main Street travel request. Corey, I'll hand that over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things that was included in the pack was the travel request for our normal 3 attendees for the National Main Street. But one of the things we had discussed as of the last meeting was to consider if the town would like to include a 4th for this National Main Street conference. I did want everyone to know that this conference would be April 13th through the 15th in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so we're trying to start as early as we can. The attendees would leave that Sunday and return on the 15th. And based on what we have with the travel schedule, that would be roughly $1,750 per attendee. If we sent 3, that would be $5,250 for that conference. And if we elected to choose a 4th, that would be roughly $7,000. At a minimum, I recommend that council approve the travel request for the 3. And if a 4th is desired, then that motion should also include the staff would work to make the same travel arrangements for any necessary budget amendments that we may need to do within the elected officials' budgets for that travel.
So
If that's send a 4th, do we even have enough for a council meeting? On 14th?
One of those 4 would be Corey.
Okay.
So that would leave us, and one of those would be me and non-voting
So
member.
we'd only be down one.
Yeah. And Corey, just one comment. I think we've got a motion by Councilman Costin. Going back to the budget presentation, our cash position as a town is strong. I understand that auditor said 3.9 million cash in the general fund. I didn't want there to be any misunderstanding that we were approving travel when there might be some sort of concerns there, but the cash position is strong.
Yes.
May I have a second
Councilman Costello. Okay, we got a motion and a
But at
second.
the same time, I think maybe we can look at a fourth at a later date. Is that the way you want to go?
Well,
If we don't want the pricing to escalate, the plane pricing and getting this early on hotel accommodations, the closer we get, both the airplane ticket and the.
So we need to be,
Yeah, if we want, we need to get and make a decision, we're sending 3 people, or we're sending 4.
and I will say this, former councilman, Roger Coleman went, I think maybe the last year, and he got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm fine
so it's
either
your
way.
motion 3?
It was 4. Yeah.
Are you okay with seconding it?
I'm okay
At
with
4. And your motion was at 4. Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the floor for 4 representatives to attend the National Main Street Conference Hall in.
Sorry. When's the lead conference this year? Where is it?
They have, I'll have to look, I'm not sure. I know that we're right in that travel season,
Right.
but usually it's
More than summertime.
March, April, May.
Oh, yeah, you
March,
can-
April.
March, April, May, and so you have kind of a 90-day window where all 3 of those fall.
Can you, can you give those dates to us
Yes.
quickly? I know you
Because
were
now we have the state
Aaron got a lot
in
out of that.
March, we have the National Main Street in April, and I think the league conference will be in May.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. I think we've asked all of our questions. All in favor of approving 4 representatives to the National Main Street Convention, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? And now, as a item E, we have pulled out the American Rescue Plan budget amendment from our consent amendment. Corey, I think probably the best way to do it is for you to present that budget amendment, and then we'll open up the floor to address Councilman Costello's concerns and other concerns and questions.
Okay, and I do have Virginia here with us and Elaine when we looked at this last few times, we made things clear up, we're uncertain on. The budget amendment reallocates the remaining housing funds to the neighborhood parks projects. The Coke Avenue acquisition and cleanup has been finalized, and there's no immediate budgetary requirements necessary. The funding requirements for the neighborhood parks was actually higher than the original budgeted due to the increased equipment along with the additional projects being added. The reallocation will allow Public Works, and we've already to some extent done this, finalize the neighborhood parks project. This amendment totals $47,204.42, and this was included and discussed as part of the planning retreat once all the expenses were finalized. You asked what those were. Some of the remaining items were the necessary requirements that we had to install for the ADA portion of the Parteet grant. So the project itself with the playground and what was there was ADA approved, but when you step back one more layer and you think about, well, how do you get from the curb of the street to the basketball courts, to the pavilion, and to the playground? There were additional ADA things that they wanted in order for us to close that grant out.
For Morgan Park, right?
Yes. So, those were done to satisfy that grant. Basically, what this would do would shift that revenue from the housing rehabilitation to 2 line items for expense here for the park.
Would this be for all the rest of the parks,
This would finalize,
the other parks?
this would finalize the housing piece and the parks.
Okay.
And what-
We can mark this as done.
And what I would recommend, before we get a motion in a second, because your motion may or may not be affected by Councilman Costello's concerns or questions, but I would give him the opportunity to ask those questions or express those concerns, and then from there, we'll have a motion one way or another.
And that's what I wanted to know, like, do we have a plan to go ahead and finalize? I know that there were some different, additional amenities that the kids wanted at the park. So if we're going to move any money, I just want to go ahead and make sure that it's enough to go ahead and finalize the park project. Now, I did still have some concerns about the housing. I know we earmarked those funds for housing to address some concerns, to kind of align with the code enforcement that we have. So that's the first question is it going to go ahead and finalize everything with the additional amenities that they're looking for?
We would be doing what we talked about for the 4th phase of our park improvements, is the expansion of the amenities that are there. We've been working back through all of the public input that we had on what those unique amenities are, and basically, as it stands, we would have to budget those out of our normal 10-640 improvements for parks and playgrounds. That, this budget amendment here would all but finalize that $975.77 to be spent.
I got a question.
Yes.
Can we set aside the parks and go ahead and give me my sidewalks?
We owe it to you.
Now with this money.
Huh?
Now with that little money.
No, but it would help.
Oh.
And so you say, well, what is that really gonna do for us? We're gonna try to find the materials, find the things that we can absorb from that last basically $1,000 to put in various places.
Gotcha. So I just want to make sure that next budget cycle coming up, that we include that into the budget, those additional amenities.
We need to price all those out. I agree with you.
And that'll be brought back in front of us.
And this money, would this money be used for the extra parking at, Martin Luther King?
No, that would, I mean.
money will cover what
This
all
is
we're
what-
spending.
Our thought is amenities, like, I mean,
Oh, you're talking about splash, splash.
Yeah, whatever was the go-go, gaga, whatever the thing is.
Yeah, all those things, what we would just do is get them all priced out, we would try to budget for them, go after hopefully some type of grant like Trillium or ECU help or something, to try to find something to help offset some of that. The primary cost of that, we just plan to spend on more.
and we would still have input on that.
Yes.
And not, all the parks would get all this, correct?
No, and the original idea was to add some type of unique amenity to each
Right.
place, so you had to go to each different location to do that thing.
But this money's already spent, so all that talk is great, but that's gonna be later on.
Yeah, so my thing of it, the park project has been drug out for some time. I just want to go ahead and get to,
Yeah.
you know, where it's finalized. Yeah, I mean, it would have been 4 years.
Well, this will finalize the accounting piece.
Right. But again, just moving forward, I just want to make sure that this is included in the budget to go ahead and, add those additional amenities.
And I think we have the appetite for that.
Yeah.
I think you've got the,
And Virginia and I have talked about that, we talked about that with David when we started looking at some of these unique amenities before, we came back with the folks from Parteep, and they were like, hey, if you're gonna close out the grant, it was for this, X, Y, and Z needs to be here and in place. Separate from just the playground portion, there was additional ADA items they'd like to see at that location.
Right. And then the last part to that was the housing piece. I know Dwayne, that you brought in some groups to give a presentation to us. Are we still in contact with them to?
So, chime in on
Yeah,
any of that?
so I spoke with a representative from the Methodist Church. They received $10,000 for housing improvements for unoccupied homes. They're partnering with that group that came in, the Carolina Rebuilding Ministries, to help administer that grant. We do have a meeting in a couple weeks with Insight Planning and Development, who will help answer our parking, or our park, getting grant money for our parks, as well as starting a new CDBG grant cycle, which now has gone up from $750,000 to $1 million. So we'll work with them in the next couple of weeks, working on that.
Like I said, the biggest thing is I just want to make sure that we get that information out to the general public, so no one can say, oh, well, we didn't know.
I've already started a list of telling anybody who's unoccupied that needs something, that I'm creating a list for applicants to go and be vetted through a third party.
Stacy has done a great job compiling that list, trying to find the right person to partner with to get through a lot of those improvements that are needed. This will be, after we meet at the end of this month with the folks from Insight, there's potential to add, to further extend the CDBG grant, again, a second time beyond what was it, $750 to begin with, and plus an additional allotment for the residential line for Project Teapot. They came back and said, hey, there's an excess there again. We want to sit back down and talk to you guys about housing. And so we keep kind of roping them in. The auditors don't want to hear that. But
Mayor, if, Councilman Costa's okay, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to
Okay, this is just an accounting closeout.
Yes.
I had to here with accounting tonight.
We feel loud and clear.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, I just want people to know that we just take strip money away
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
one pot and then
And I'm
also
glad we
come
come,
to
and
a
I'm glad we come to
conclusion.
closure too. That's fine. I make a motion we accept. Do
I'll
you need a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay, make a motion that we approve the budget amendment.
Send it, you second. Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor of the budget amendment as discussed and presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now Corey, this is the pot calling the kettle black here, but can you be as brief as
Yes.
possible?
We've been in session so long that people are not safe.
There were a total of 2 public comments received at the January 13th full council meeting. First was Mr. Steve Carr spoke regarding the oldest house in North Carolina was planned to be moved from its location on East Queen Street. And he stated the residents and neighbors do not want to see this happen. He stated the house needs to remain in its current location. Mr. Carl, thank you for the comments and consideration of the plan. There will be various reviews through the stages of this project led by the Historic Commission that are here. The project will be vetted similar to any and all other projects within the historic district. This should help with any public concerns, public input, et cetera.
And Corey, if we don't move the house, it's up to the Penelope Barker Foundation to then make a motion, make a application for the preservation.
Yeah, to go through all
So
that.
that everybody keeps saying the town's moving
Yes,
this, town is moving this.
Does Carl understand that?
I'm hoping that.
I'm hoping the press understands that too.
Because he thinks it's up to us.
Yeah, this is America, and people that own their own houses can do, they make the motion, not the town.
So the application for any type of historic preservation would be followed, and to be quite honest, our most historic acclaimed nonprofit partner is leading the charge on this. So this thing's not gonna be locked up on center blocks and looks like a house at the beach on stilts. Susan Ingalls also spoke, said there's not enough trash receptacles around Edenton, and recyclables should also be added. And she asked if the town planned to budget for any more trash and recycling. David's done an outstanding job on getting recycled cans, recycled carts. A very valid question to that is this also applicable to publicly owned recycle bins that are the nice metal structures? What we would like to do is work with Public Works to identify all the existing locations and to share that information with the mayor's task force to find out if there's any gaps. And if so, we'll price out and see, how many we can do now, how many we can do after July 1. When we look at items considered timely and important, Councilman Dixon noted that the hyper-reach system does work. Yes, it does. And we have sent out social media posts directing residents to the link to sign up. Councilman Turner asked about the status of the electric meters, and as of today, 1,480 meters have been installed and operating and reported. Councilman Constant stated there have been several calls and messages regarding the work being conducted on the 4th Street, and that proper notification needs to be sent out to residents and businesses when work is being planned. Main Street had pushed out the traffic patterns. These have been shared on social media. These had also been shared at the Merchant meeting before the construction started. However, the contractor was able to start 1 week sooner than expected, and this created disruption prior to all that, thinking that it would be the following week. And who doesn't want a project 1 week ahead of schedule to begin with? And so, sorry for that. We had planned for the worst and hoped for the best, and we got the opposite. That's all I have.
Thank you, you were brief. Okay, next items considered timely important to the mayor and council. I would just like to thank David for you and your department and everybody, every employee of the town for your hard work, and David LaFond, I'd like to thank you and your department. I also would like to thank all the councilmen who handled our business in my absence in January. I had something going on minor medically that I had to take care of, and I understand that y'all handled business very well, and I appreciate that. Going back this way.
Mayor, just one thing. Corey, what's the status on the Marriott Hotel? Is there a possibility that from this calendar year?
I don't have a good answer for you right now. We need to reach out to them.
Is that the one by the hospital we approved?
That's
That's
right.
right.
They got pretty good to the point.
How many years ago was that?
Three, no, four.
It's time to reconsider that site plan and the application for that permit, I would.
They have to come back to us anyway, right?
There was no application, or no special use permit, it was just a rezoning that was heard before, so.
And I think we need to, I mean, I don't wanna talk about this because we've been here too long, but, yeah, we used to approve things all the time that people never do. I mean, it happens all the time. So, there needs to be some trigger, they either have to do it or don't apply.
Okay, any other comments?
Well, I think, Tress, how are we progressing with that project? Project you bought, how's it going as far as?
Everything's on schedule, if not a little bit ahead of schedule. The parking lot, the Court Street intersection we found some old terracotta pipe, about 100 years old, that was encased in concrete, that's being replaced. An old heating oil tank has been removed, and they're starting to lay foundation for the screening wall and the generator and transformer pads. So everything's tracking.
When is a conservative grand opening date where we'll have employees downtown?
A grand opening I can't answer. An opening date, right now AR Cheston's tracking for an August completion for the building, and Provalis needs about 5 weeks to get their furniture fixtures in there, and so they're targeting an early October opening date.
Wow.
And they'll start their hiring efforts about 2 months ahead of that.
Okay. To the citizens and the press here tonight, thank you for bearing with us. I think we had a very good meeting. We appreciate you, and I'll call this meeting adjourned.